Sinaba was not a village known for wealth, nor for warriors, but for something more dangerous: rumors. The villagers whispered at dawn and murmured through dusk, and no whisper traveled faster than the one about the woman at the river. Every full moon, someone would spot her bathing, naked, skin gleaming like copper, hair long like river grass. No one knew her name, but all agreed on one thing. She disappears into the water, they said, and leaves behind a slithering trail. Some called her a spirit, some said she was cursed, but old Baku, the blind drummer, told a different tale. She is not cursed, he once said, she is choosing. No one understood what that meant, but they would soon. Among the brave men of Sinaba was a hunter named Kofi, tall, quiet, sharp-eyed. He had faced lions, chased leopards, and survived a duel with a python in the deep forest. But even Kofi had never dared approach the river at full moon, until he heard the story from a drunk traveler who claimed, "She is not just a woman, she is beauty itself." That haunted Kofi. For weeks he dreamed of her voice without sound, her smile without lips, a beauty beyond reason. So one full moon night, Kofi took his spear, covered himself in palm oil, and crept silently to the riverbank. The water shimmered under moonlight like a sheet of silver. And there she was. She stood waist deep in the river, back turned to him. Her hair floated around her like a dark cloud. Her hands moved slowly, washing invisible things from her skin. Kofi stepped closer. A branch cracked beneath his foot. She turned. Her eyes were golden, not yellow, golden, like coins forged from ancient kingdoms. And she smiled. Kofi froze. He felt like he was being unraveled. "You came," she said. Her voice was a blend of breeze and thunder. Kofi tried to speak. No words came. "You've watched me in your dreams," she continued. "So now you must watch with your eyes." She lifted her hand. Kofi fell to his knees, and then her legs vanished. In their place, scales. Her torso remained womanly, soft and brown, but below her waist, thick, shimmering coils spiraled into the water. Her skin glowed. Her hair floated unnaturally. Her eyes burned brighter. Kofi could not move. He should have run, screamed, prayed. But he was entranced. She slithered out of the water, rising taller than any tree, her serpent body gliding across sand without a sound. She circled Kofi. "You are not afraid," she whispered. He finally found his voice. "I should be." She leaned close. "Then why are you not?" "Because," he said, "you are the most real thing I've ever seen." She tilted her head. "Real things are dangerous." He nodded. "So are lies." She smiled again. "I will show you the difference." Then, as fast as a blink, she was gone. When Kofi returned to the village, he was changed. He didn't speak, he didn't eat, he didn't blink often. But the elders noticed something else. On his neck was a scale, a single golden scale, smooth and warm to the touch. No one could remove it. No charm could cover it. Even Baku, the blind drummer, trembled when he touched it. "You've seen her," he whispered. Kofi nodded. "Then may the spirits walk with you, for you are no longer alone." That night, Kofi dreamed again, but it wasn't just her face, it was her world. He saw underwater palaces made of bone and gold, serpents that whispered names of kings. And he saw her, sitting on a throne of skulls, smiling at him like he belonged there. Baku summoned Kofi secretly. "You do not understand what you've done," the old man warned. "She is not just a woman. She is not just a spirit. She is the gate between the forgotten and the forbidden." Kofi said nothing. "You've marked yourself," Baku continued. "She will come for you again, not with beauty, but with hunger." Kofi asked only one question. "Who is she?" Baku replied. "She was once known as Adisa, the one who speaks clearly, but now she is known only as Na Nkere, the one who coils and never forgets." Kofi's hands trembled, but his heart burned. He wanted to see her again, even if it meant losing himself. 1 week later, the villagers gathered for the Festival of Masks. Kofi appeared, but not in a mask. He wore a robe of leaves, green and wet, and his face was painted with river clay. No one knew what spirit he represented. As the drums beat and dancers moved, Kofi danced too, but to a rhythm that no drum played. He moved like water, like scales, like someone who had learned a different beat. Then, without warning, the river behind the village rose, even though no rain had fallen. From the mist emerged Adisa, half-woman, half-serpent. All eyes turned to her. All drums fell silent. She looked only at Kofi. He stepped forward. Everyone watched as he took her hand. She smiled, and the ground beneath him opened. Kofi didn't scream when the earth opened. His feet slid first, then his legs, then the rest of his body, until only his hand remained above ground, clutching Adisa's. Around them, the world twisted. Soil turned to mist, stones to bones. The river water flowed upward, downward, sideways. They fell, but not down. They fell through. Then silence, then breath, then light. Kofi landed softly, as if the ground was made of breath. He gasped, not because he was hurt, but because he was alive in a place no living man should stand. Above him was water, an entire sky of river suspended upside down, glowing with silver fish and shadowy forms drifting past like spirits in sleep. Below him was a glowing path of pearl-colored stones, leading toward a city that pulsed with light, as though it breathed. "Where are we?" Kofi whispered. Adisa stood beside him, her serpent body no longer hidden. Her coils shimmered with every shade of green, silver, and bronze. She replied, "You are in Naye no, the deep between." He turned to her. "Is this death?" She smiled, but there was sadness in it. But it is not life either." They approached a massive gate carved from the bones of ancient beasts. Around it curled carvings of snakes with human eyes. A horn blew, not with sound, but with feeling. A deep pressure inside the chest. A voice spoke, without lips, from the gate itself. "Who comes to Naye no, unburied and still bleeding?" Adisa raised her arm, revealing the golden pendant at her neck. "Adisa, daughter of the seventh coil." The gate paused. "And the man?" She looked at Kofi, then to the gate. "He follows not with fear, but with fire. Let him be judged." The gates opened, groaning like a forgotten prayer. Inside lay the Court of Scales, a wide plaza built from stone that shifted like living skin. At its center sat the Serpent Council, 7 beings cloaked in robes of fish scale and bone. Each had a different face, woman, man, animal, and things unnameable. But all shared eyes that never blinked. They looked at Kofi. One spoke. "Why have you brought this man to our place, daughter Adisa?" Adisa bowed slightly. "Because he did not run when I showed him what I am. Because he saw me not as curse, but as truth." Another counselor, with skin like polished obsidian, hissed, "Many men desire what they do not understand. Desire is not permission." Adisa answered, "Then test him." A sharp drumbeat echoed. The floor beneath Kofi began to move, shifting him to the center of the court. A serpent uncoiled beside him. Not Adisa, something older, larger. Its body was carved with marks of memory. Its tongue flickered smoke. It spoke directly into Kofi's spine. "You who walk with warm blood, what do you fear most? The death of love or the life of truth?" Kofi didn't speak. The serpent opened its mouth wide, revealing visions instead of fangs. He saw his mother crying over his empty bed. He saw Adisa sitting alone on a throne made of ash. He saw himself turning into a snake, shedding skin after skin until only bones remained. Kofi whispered, "I fear forgetting who I am." The serpent nodded. "Then remember this." It struck. Kofi collapsed. When he awoke, he was no longer in the court. He lay in a chamber of moss and stone, surrounded by quiet water. Adisa sat beside him, her eyes heavy with a strange softness. "What happened?" Kofi croaked. "You passed," she said. "Barely." She leaned forward, touching his chest. There, where his heart beat fast, was a new mark, a winding symbol of a snake curled around a flame. "You are now marked by the river," she said. "You may stay, or you may return. But know this, whichever you choose, you will never again be just a man." Kofi sat up. "Why me?" Her answer came like mist. "Because you didn't try to conquer me." She led him through tunnels carved by ancient tides into a place called Mbong Mamo, the memory pool. In it, one could see every truth, every life, every betrayal. Adisa stood at the edge and whispered, "My kind were once worshipped. We gave kings their crowns, but then we were feared, hunted, forgotten." She looked at Kofi. "I survived. I coiled myself in silence. Until you." He stared into the pool. There he saw himself as a boy, afraid of snakes. Then he saw himself as a man, dancing with one. He asked, "What do you want from me?" Adisa stepped into the water. "Not worship, not war, just your choice." That night, in the glowing city beneath the river, Adisa stood before her people. She spoke not with words, but with memory. She showed them Kofi's strength, his humility, his willingness to lose himself to understand her. The council murmured. And then they did something they hadn't done in centuries. They offered him a place, not as king, not as god, but as witness, the one who walks between water and land. "You will carry our memory," they said. "You will speak our truth." Kofi looked at Adisa. "I want you," he said. "Not just your power, your pain, your past, all of you." She wept. A single tear. It turned to pearl. Back in Sinaba, nothing was the same. The river no longer flowed as it used to. Fish would gather near the surface, staring with strange eyes. Children heard songs in their dreams. The sky turned gray too soon. Old Baku, the blind drummer, walked to the edge of the water. He beat a slow rhythm into the soil. And from the deep, something stirred. Not Adisa, not Kofi, but a third force, the hunters. Long ago, they had been exiled by the serpent people, but now, sensing the breach between worlds, they returned, clad in salt and smoke, carrying nets that could catch souls. They whispered, "The girl has broken the law. She loves a man." And the law was clear. She must die. Deep beneath the river, Kofi and Adisa stood hand in hand, unaware of the doom rising above. The city trembled faintly. A single fish swam upside down. A whisper echoed through the kingdom. "The hunters are coming." The tremor started in the stones beneath the river palace, gentle, almost like a sigh. But Adisa knew better. She stiffened, the coils of her serpent body tightening with memory. Kofi noticed the change in her eyes. "What is it?" he asked. Adisa stared into the glowing walls of Somande, the underwater city. "They've returned," she whispered. "Who?" She looked away, voice dry. "The ones who hunt love between two worlds, the hunters of salt and smoke." That night, Adisa took Kofi deep beneath the city. into a hidden chamber carved from the skeleton of a river leviathan. Carved along the walls were scenes of war, serpent women coiling around flame-wielding warriors, love offerings crushed under spears, a mother holding her child as nets of salt fell from the skies. She pointed to a single carving, a woman with a serpent's body holding hands with a human man. "That was my great-grandmother," Adisa said. "She loved a fisherman from the surface. When the hunters found out, they bound her with smoke, burned her in salt, and turned her lover into stone." Kofi's hands balled into fists. "Because she loved," Adisa nodded. "They say love weakens our kind, makes us too close to flesh." Kofi stepped forward. "I am not afraid of them." But Adisa placed her hand on his chest. "I am." At dawn, a taste of salt crept into the river currents. The fish vanished, the glowing eels fled into cracks, and far above, in the village of Sinaba, animals refused to drink from the river. The hunters had arrived. They came in threes, always cloaked, always silent. They wore masks carved from driftwood and bone. Around their necks hung nets laced with dried smoke and obsidian salt. They did not walk. They floated just above the ground, never touching it. The villagers knew better than to speak to them. But old Baku, the blind drummer, sat at the river's edge and whispered. She broke no law worth fearing. The hunters did not respond. They simply disappeared into the mist. And beneath the water, the serpent kingdom shivered. A messenger eel slithered into Adisa's chambers. Its scales blackened, its eyes smoking. She read the marks along its body. "The hunters have passed the threshold," she told Kofi. "We must prepare." But Kofi was not afraid. "I won't let them take you," he said. She turned to him, sadness in her gaze. "You can't fight them with fists. They do not bleed. They do not die." Kofi reached for the pendant at her throat, the serpent biting its own tail. "Then I'll fight them with memory, with truth, with the only thing they fear." She tilted her head. "And what is that?" he answered. "A love that doesn't ask permission." The Serpent Council convened. The elders' coils filled the Hall of Scales. Water churned slowly around them, thick with tension. One spoke. "Adisa, you've brought danger upon us." Another hissed. "The hunters have not crossed in 200 years." A third said, "The man must leave." Adisa raised her voice. "I will not send him away." The council stirred. Kofi stepped forward. "If I must face them alone, I will." The eldest counselor, whose body was transparent as jellyfish, said, "Then we grant you the right of sinking flame. If your heart is strong enough, it may burn through their salt." Adisa gasped. "That ritual hasn't been done since the old collapse." The council was silent. Then one added, "Love has returned. So must the fire." Kofi stood beneath the Tree of Echoes, a drowned tree, still rooted, its leaves glowing with blue fire. Adisa circled him, painting his skin with crushed shell and oil. Her chants were low, ancient. The ritual began. Flames rose underwater, flames that did not burn flesh but memory. One by one, Kofi relived. The death of his father. The betrayal of his brother. The first time he laughed with Adisa under a full moon. Each memory either fed the flame or made it flicker. He stood still, unmoving, until his body glowed, not with fire, but with conviction. When it ended, Adisa placed a kiss on his forehead. "You are now a keeper of the deep flame," Kofi asked. "Will it stop the hunters?" She whispered, "It might stop one." They came at night as smoke drifted through the cracks of Soma Inde. The first hunter entered without sound. He moved like thought, fast, precise, invisible to most, but not to Kofi. He waited at the gate with the tree's flame glowing in his hands. The hunter lunged. Kofi stood his ground. The net of salt flew toward him. He raised the flame. The salt hissed, turned to water, and fell. The hunter screamed, not in pain but in frustration, before vanishing. But 2 more remained, and they would not come alone. Knowing war had begun, Adisa gathered her kin. She sang the old song, one only used when the serpent people feared extinction. It called the river beasts to aid. It awakened the bones of forgotten warriors. It summoned tides from distant shores. Soma Unde prepared for battle. Kofi stood at Adisa's side, holding no weapon, only the flame inside his chest. She turned to him. "If we fall," he interrupted, "we rise again." They embraced, not like man and goddess, but like equals, like love and fire. Rain poured in Sinaba, but it was not water. It was brine, thick and bitter. The villagers wailed. Fields turned white. Goats collapsed. Infants stopped crying. Old Baku stood again by the river. He beat his drum, slow, heavy, final, and into the village walked the final hunter, taller than the rest. Its mask was made of snake skulls. Its net was black smoke, and where it walked, death followed. Rain poured in Sinaba, but it was not water. It was brine, thick and bitter. The villagers wailed. Fields turned white. Goats collapsed. Infants stopped crying. Old Baku stood again by the river. He beat his drum, slow, heavy, final. And into the village walked the final hunter, taller than the rest. Its mask was made of snake skulls. Its net was black smoke, and where it walked, death followed. Somande shuddered. From every wall, every ripple, every memory pool, the great underwater kingdom trembled as the final hunter entered. Taller than any known spirit, its mask was carved from a nest of snake skulls. Its net of smoke unrolled in the water like ink, ready to smother truth itself. Behind it, the other 2 hunters flanked in silence. No words, no sound, only purpose. Their goal was simple: end the union, destroy the blood crossing, burn the serpent daughter. Adisa rose from her throne, taller now, her coils glowing with sacred fire. She didn't blink. Kofi stood beside her, the sinking flame burning across his chest like a second heartbeat. He whispered, "If we fall," Adisa cut him off. "Then we fall together." The battle began. The serpent people attacked first. Ribbons of lightning spat from their mouths, their coils cracking the water into whirlpools. But the hunters were not made of flesh. They vanished into shadows, reappearing behind the fighters. One swung its salt net, snaring 2 warriors mid-charge. Their scales turned to sand. Another released a wave of smoke, blotting memory and song alike. The singers collapsed. The beasts fled. The final hunter floated toward Adisa, the net in its hand pulsing. "You broke the first law," it said. "I broke nothing," she replied. "I chose." "Then you must be unchosen." The net lunged. Kofi stepped between them. The net hit his chest, and the sinking flame exploded. Kofi was lifted off the ground, but not thrown. He hovered, arms out, the flame across his chest blazing like a second sun. The smoke recoiled. The salt hissed. The other 2 hunters shielded their masks, but the final hunter stood firm. "You are a man," it spat. "You carry warmth. It will die." But Kofi wasn't just a man anymore. He was marked by memory, tried by trial, forged in water and truth. "I am what you fear most," he said. "A love that survived." He struck the net with his bare hand. It shattered into ash. Adisa raised both arms. She began to sing, not a battle song, but a birth song, old and trembling. Every serpent around her froze. The city listened. Even the hunters paused. It was the song sung by her great-grandmother, the first serpent woman to fall in love with a man. The song the hunters had forbidden. The song that could only be sung when love was stronger than law. As she sang, the stones of Somande began to melt into light. Not fire, not water, just truth. And in that light, the hunter's smoke lost shape. Kofi walked forward, the flame around him dimming into steady glow. He approached the final hunter. "No more masks," he said. With his hand, he reached out, slowly, gently, and touched the hunter's mask. It cracked, then shattered. Behind it was a face, old, tired, once human, a face full of sadness. A voice whispered, "I too, once loved." Kofi stepped back. Adisa reached out and said softly, "Then why did you hunt us?" The hunter bowed his head. "Because I wasn't strong enough to fight the others. I thought if I couldn't have love, no one should." Tears formed in its ancient eyes. Salt turned to water. The hunters dissolved, not in death, but in release. With the curse broken, the city trembled, not in fear, but in rebirth. The palace of bone turned to coral. The salt in the waters turned sweet. The people of Soma Inde lifted their heads and sang for the first time in centuries. The Serpent Council declared, "The boundary has shifted. We no longer hide. Let those who walk in light and those who coil in shadow walk together again." Adisa turned to Kofi. "You are free to return," she said, "or to stay." He looked up toward the surface, then back to her. "I go where you go." One morning, the people of Sinaba woke to find the river singing, not with water, but with music. Kofi stood at the bank, hand in hand with Adisa, her coils hidden under a blue cloth, her hair glistening in the sun. Behind them, children of Soma Inde climbed onto the shore, human-eyed, serpent-scaled, laughing with joy. Baku, the blind drummer, was the first to bow. "You did what no one ever dared," he said. "You loved," Adisa answered. That was the rebellion. The villagers gathered. No one ran, no one cursed. Instead, they listened. Adisa told her story, and Kofi held her hand. And so it is said, when the river is quiet and the wind curls like a serpent through the trees, the spirits of Somande still rise to hear their names spoken. They listen for truth. They listen for love. They listen for storytellers who still believe that magic and memory walk hand in hand. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you feel, remember, or dream, then this is your place. This is Storydrum, where African tales beat from the heart. Subscribe to the channel to walk with us through more forgotten myths, untold love stories, and the echoes of our ancestors. What would you have done if you were Kofi or Adisa? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every word. Tap the bell to stay close to the drum, because the next story may be waiting for you.